The big story this morning comes from Italy. The country's president blocking the nomination of a Eurosceptic finance minister, the move prompting Italy's leading populist political parties to ditch their plans to form a government. They are now growing concerns, though, that the fresh elections could take place. The yield on the Italian two-year note hitting its highest level since 2013. Italian banks, as you might imagine, also selling off this morning as well. Thousands of Starbucks company-owned stores, they're going to be closing this afternoon for racial bias training. This follows, of course, the arrest of two black men who were asked to use a Philadelphia store bathroom in April. Kay Rogers joins us now with more on this story that I think is actually going to have a huge impact just on the way people live today for at least a couple hours in the afternoon. Kate.
Certainly, Andrew, that's right. And good morning. The coffee giant will be closing about 8,000 of its company-owned locations, just like the one you see behind me here at about 2 o'clock local time for that racial bias training, which will reach 175,000 or so of its U.S. partners or employees. The company has actually said the training is not mandatory, but it's for any partner who wants to help make Starbucks a more welcoming and inclusive space.
Let's begin, though, with the unrest in Europe taking hold of the markets across the globe. U.S. stocks falling hard at the open, as Carl mentioned, recovering a little bit. Italian voters are bracing for a possible Euro showdown ahead of snap elections. Our Wilfred Frost joining us with more, Wilfred, on how we got to this point and how risky it is for investors to watch the politics, which are a mess in Europe.
Yes, indeed, Sarah. Good morning to you. Following those elections in Italy we saw in March, we look set to form a new government that would have seen an unprecedented coalition between two populist parties, the right-wing League and the left-leaning Five Star Movement. This had already spooked markets, given both parties have a disregard for fiscal discipline and a past romance with leaving the euro. But late last week, the president blocked the formation of the coalition when their choice for finance minister was considered too overtly anti-euro. This has led Italian assets to plummet further because it will almost inevitably lead to fresh elections, and markets fear a further surge for the populists.
ABC has canceled Roseanne. The president of ABC Entertainment, Channing Dungey, issuing a statement saying Roseanne's Twitter statement is abhorrent, repugnant, and inconsistent with our values, and we have decided to cancel her show. This comes after a series of offensive tweets by Roseanne Barr, one of them making offensive comments about Valerie Jarrett, Obama advisor. A tweet that was deleted said Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes had a baby. That tweet then deleted. Roseanne Barr apologized, but ABC has decided to cancel her show.
It's Roseanne Barr apologizing for a racist tweet that got her sitcom canceled by ABC. The star tweeting, "Don't feel sorry for me, guys. I just want to apologize to the hundreds of people and wonderful writers, all liberal and talented actors who lost their jobs on my show due to my stupid tweet." Star blaming the tweet on the late hour, 2 in the morning, and the sleep aid Ambien. We've all talked about what Ambien can do to people, but I don't know if that's really a fair way to think about it, but nonetheless.
You know, this is a situation. People knew that Roseanne Barr had tweeted some stuff that was pretty controversial in the past. In fact, I think they were joking about it at the ABC upfront. Some of the some of the reporters in the stands were saying that. I'm sorry to see it too, because I loved Roseanne, the show, growing up. I loved the revival of it. And it was tackling some important issues. It had people like Wanda Sykes, who was working on it, Sarah Gilbert, who also tweeted last night. She was a co-executive producer on the show and said she was disappointed. Well, said she was very disappointed in what she had said. Wanda Sykes said she wouldn't be returning. Sarah Gilbert said she was very disappointed in Roseanne and the statement and all the things that had happened, but didn't say that she was going to ask off of it.
President Trump signing the controversial Right to Try bill just a short while ago, allowing patients with life-threatening conditions to use experimental medicines not yet approved by the FDA. Meg Terrell joins us now with more on this. Meg.
Hey guys, well, in signing the bill this afternoon, President Trump said Right to Try will give dying patients hope where they had none before. But critics of the law say instead it could give them false hope. Right to Try enables terminally ill patients the ability to take experimental drugs outside of clinical trials when they've exhausted all other options. Often patients will be too sick or otherwise won't qualify for clinical trials. And in recent years, we've seen these situations result in public shaming campaigns of drug companies. Now, the law stipulates that the medicines must have completed phase 1 safety testing and protects companies from adverse reactions being used against the medicines in clinical review in most circumstances. So what do critics say is wrong with it? Well, for one, they say it doesn't fix anything. The FDA says it already approved 99% of requests for drugs in this setting, which is known as compassionate use. Often the holdup comes from drug companies, which may not have enough supply or have other reasons for not wanting to provide experimental medicines.
President Trump is responding to the firing of Roseanne. Eamon Javers is at the White House with the latest. Eamon.
Yeah, hi, Melissa. Yesterday, Sarah Sanders, the White House press secretary, suggested that the president was too focused on the military and the economy and other issues of importance to the nation to focus on the firing of Roseanne when she was asked about it last night on the way to an event in Tennessee. The president didn't touch the subject in Tennessee last night, but today he apparently had a window of time on his schedule to address it. He took to Twitter and said this. He said Bob Iger of ABC called Valerie Jarrett to let her know that ABC does not tolerate comments like those made by Roseanne Barr. Gee, he never called President Donald J. Trump to apologize for the horrible statements made and said about me on ABC. Maybe I just didn't get the call. So the president there seeming to suggest that he wants a call from Bob Iger to apologize for criticism of him made on ABC. White House aides not available this afternoon to walk us through exactly what it is that the president wants an apology for. Diplomacy is kicking into high gear in New York as Secretary of State Mike Pompeo met with a high-ranking North Korean official. This is the highest-ranking North Korean official to visit the United States in decades. We have some pictures here of the arrival yesterday in Manhattan. This is Kim Yong-chol of North Korea. The two men had dinner together at a building close to the United Nations headquarters yesterday. On the menu, Mike Pompeo said, was steak, corn, and cheese. Now, simultaneously, as you see these pictures in New York, there are other talks going on between the U.S. side and the North Koreans in Singapore in terms of getting the physical logistics together of that Singapore summit that still is possible on June the 12th, and also talks taking place at the DMZ, the demilitarized zone, between the two Koreas. The United States side said yesterday that its goal, what it expressed to the North Koreans, is what they're calling CVID. It's a new acronym they're talking about in diplomatic circles. They're calling it complete, verifiable, irreversible denuclearization. That's what the United States wants out of this. The question is, what do the North Koreans want out of this negotiation? Wilbur Ross, the Commerce Secretary, just wrapped up a conference call with reporters in which he laid out the president's decision here on the steel and aluminum tariffs, as we've been reporting through this morning. The decision is that in the case of Canada, Mexico, and the EU, not to extend the exemptions that have been granted to those tariffs, and therefore, Wilbur Ross says, they will be placed under the 25% tariff on steel and the 10% tariff on aluminum effective midnight tonight. Also, he said there's another bucket here of other countries that are involved: Argentina, Australia, and Brazil. He said there's been arranged limitations on the volume that they can shift to the U.S. in lieu of tariffs. So while exempted from tariffs, they will be subject to constraint in terms of volume. So he's saying in a few cases, the form of constraint has changed from tariff to volume, but the objective here of the president remains the same. That Wilbur Ross saying that the president's campaign trail promise to fix U.S. trade deficit problems remains in effect, and this is the president acting based on that campaign promise and his approach to the world. He said that the reason for the deferral here in terms of the tariffs for Canada and Mexico was because of those NAFTA talks, which are ongoing. He also said that those talks are taking longer than we thought. Therefore, they were added to the list of those who had to bear tariffs.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau weighing in on President Trump's new trade tariff move. Let's listen.
Canadien et du Canada. La ministre Freeland est ici pour annoncer nos mesures.
Is here to outline our retaliatory measures. This morning, I called the leaders of the opposition to let them know what our response would be. In closing, I want to be very clear on one point. Americans remain our partners, our allies, and our friends. The American people is not the target of today's announcement. We hope that eventually common sense will triumph.
Not only did the May jobs number beat forecasts, April payrolls were also revised higher. Unemployment rates dipped to 3.8, is the lowest since the year 2000. Wages up 2.7 from the year-ago period, and those numbers coming out ahead of the Fed's policy meeting later in the month. Black unemployment 5.9, the lowest going back to data collection in 72. Very little wrong with this print.
Yeah, look, we have an amazing economy right now. Right now, you have an amazing job-creating economy, and by the way, the growth is happening if you're a worker with not that much wage growth. But the fact is that jobs are plentiful. Look, we don't have enough people in this country to maintain this. I mean, literally, do not have enough people in this country. That's what this number's about to me, David.
3-month average 172,000, 6-month average 199,000, 2017 average 182,000, 2016 average 195,000, 2015 average 226,000.
Where are we going to find all the workers in this country?
If we want to go straight to the White House, one of Kim Jong-un's top aides is arriving there, Kim Yong-chol. He is an envoy, obviously, from North Korea, dispatched there to deliver a letter to President Trump. They're hoping to get that summit that was scheduled to take place on June 12th back on track so that both sides could meet in Singapore.
Not exactly a photo op just now.
No.
Here you see the president pausing for a moment to
family
pose for
photo.
photographs,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
This is an important moment for this president. He is clearly making sure that the North Koreans feel like this has been a successful meeting, feel like they've been welcomed at the White House, shaking hands several times now all the way around with the North Korean officials and delegation. We are told by the pool, by the way, that not all of the North Korean officials were allowed into the Oval Office for the meeting, or not all of them attended the meeting. Whether they had wanted to or not is unclear, but that some of them remained outside the Oval Office during this meeting. And now you're seeing another series of official photos being taken. So those are official White House photographers there taking those photos, and then the press pool behind them shooting over their backs toward the lawn. That's the south lawn of the White House there, where you see this very informal but very personable exchange now between Kim Yong-chol and the President of the United States.
Some
It's a
smiles
remarkable moment. A
on both
remarkable moment.
sides. Eamon, do we expect to hear from the president at all?
I do expect to hear from him. We haven't been given any official guidance, but just I would feel like, knowing this White House, that if the president feels that this has been a successful meeting, he's going to want to talk to the press about it, explain what they've accomplished here today. The president walking this official out to his vehicle to say goodbye is a very warm and welcoming sign from this White House to a North Korean official. So I would imagine that at some point shortly we would hear from the president. It's entirely possible now that he walks right over to the pool reporters who are standing about, I would say, about 30 yards from where he is capturing these photographs. They have their boom mics ready. Those audio guys have long arms, and they're ready to stick the mics out. If the president wants to come over and talk, he can do it right now.
I was thinking the same thing, although absent that, I wonder, do you know if Sarah Sanders' briefing is still scheduled coming up?
I don't believe we have a briefing scheduled coming up. The next thing that we're going to see, here comes the president coming our way, so to speak, heading toward the cameras.
Meeting on June 12th in
Let's listen in.
Singapore went very well. It's really a get-to-know-you kind of a situation. Mike has spent 2 days doing this. We've gotten to know their people very well, and we will. You people are going to have to travel because you'll be in Singapore on June 12th. And I think it'll be a process. It's not, I never said it goes in one meeting. I think it's going to be a process. But the relationships are building, and that's a very positive thing.
Mr. President, what's your sense of what the North Koreans are willing to do on the issue of denuclearization? Are they?
Well, I think they want to do that. I know they want to do that. They want other things along the line. They want to develop as a country. That's going to happen, I have no doubt. Japan is involved, as you know, and South Korea is very much involved. We're involved in terms of getting everything. Everybody wants the United States, so we're going to help in the process very much. Without us, it wouldn't happen.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.